building a family looks different for everyone. There are several reasons why people can't biologically produce a child. I went through self-shaming of being affected by infertility, not being able to physically carry a child in my 30s, and now in my 40s, not having any more eggs to give have been hurdles that I've had to overcome. I didn't know then about the community of various types of support that exists for those of us struggling with this. I didn't know about the options, financially, medically, psychologically, donor-wise, etc., that are available to us so that we can realize our families. You're listening to Mothers in Arms. I'm your host, Leslie Lopez. This is episode number 13 in conversation with Arsiak Vartenian. I got the chance to sit down with Arsiak. She was the founder and host of an uplifting show called Smart is the New Sexy, which encouraged women to dream big through storytelling, connection, and community. After a short hiatus, Arsiak has transferred herself to an online platform on LinkedIn, where she focuses on empowering women in their motherhood journeys by talking about IVF and surrogacy as she shares her personal story with both. I came across Arsiak's story on YouTube and found so many similarities in our path to becoming mothers. She inspires me and honestly supported me with the push I needed to launch this podcast. Without further ado, let's get into this.
I think I went and I asked my husband, I'm like, hey, there's this lady, she reached out to me. And he's like, reach back out to her and see what happens. And I did. And I'm so happy that I did, because I got to connect with you, and you're just a wonderful human being. And I remember our first conversation, we spoke, I think for like 3 hours, 2 or 3 hours. We were on the phone and you shared your journey with me and I shared mine, and we had a lot of similarities, even though our journey looked different along the stages, but at the end, we were still trying to achieve the same outcome, which is being mothers.
That's right. I feel grateful that you're in my life, and that even though you're in Florida, you're in the opposite end of our country, what you're doing is always resonating. And I just feel like there's other people out there, men and women, that hearing you feel braver to continue on this path to being a parent. It's very cool what you've done to get the word out.
Thank you, Leslie. I was thinking about our interview for the last couple of weeks since you asked me. First of all, thank you so much again for creating such an amazing platform to have women like myself and others like surrogates and just tell their stories about how they are coming to terms with infertility, how they're becoming either surrogates, gestational carriers, or how they've used mothers that have intended parents that have used surrogates to be able to get to this point and to create their family. So this is amazing. I think the work that we're doing, and like I always say, there's enough space for everyone. And what I want to do is I want to bring awareness, and just culturally, I think we've spoken about this, that, especially coming from a cultural background, whether it's Middle Eastern. So that's my background. That's very foreign to them. Even the Spanish culture. I've even noticed that here when I've gone to doctor's offices, when people have asked me about, do you have kids? How many live births have you had? And, so on and so forth. And they just kind of look, what? Surrogacy? Okay. That can please, tell me more about this. So I think creating that space and educating and inspiring and empowering people to talk more about this, to say that you could create a family. There's more than one way to create a family. And if this is the one avenue for you, right? The one avenue, which could be surrogacy, and there's a few ways that you could do surrogacy, right? Then that's the way, that's your road to be able to create a family. And then there's adoption. We live in such a beautiful time in our lives now that science is just getting better. And science is, along with faith, right? Science
Right.
and WIC together are able to help women like ourselves be able to create these little tiny humans that, maybe we never would have had an opportunity to have, and especially in our situation, being able to have a surrogate and find someone that's just so loving and giving to want to be able to give another woman, this life and have her, help her create that family dynamic that she wants so badly that I myself could not make happen on my own.
That's
Um,
so true.
it's a beautiful thing. It's such a beautiful thing. These women, I always tell my surrogate every time we talk or every time that we reach out to each other, I always say, I can never repay you. You are the gift that keeps on giving. You gave me something that there's nothing in this entire world that I can ever give you or
So true.
do for you of what you've done for me.
That's amazing. When did you first hear about gestational carriers and surrogacy? Like, was that something you heard about, like, even before you started trying to become a parent? Had you ever heard of it?
No. I mean, once in a while, you hear it in the gossip, but I didn't really understand it. The way I heard about surrogacy was I have a friend, I think I introduced you to her. She was the first
Yes.
woman that I knew did it, and she talked so openly about her journey, and I was so just amazed by, oh, wow, this is really cool. Like, this is really great because she was older. She had, some things going on with her health earlier on. So having kids was completely off the table for her. And then one day her husband had come to her and was like, let's have a baby. And she's like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? So she did a lot of the investigating and the research and all of that. So when it was time for me to now, oh my gosh, this is the way that you're going to be able to have a child that's going to be your own. This is, your option. What do we do? And at first I was like nervous, right? It's like nervous. I'm like scared, worried. But after
Yes.
reaching out to her and talking to her, and she educated me, and I spent time with her and her daughter several times. I went over there and to her home and went to lunch with her, and we spent some time together. I started to understand it and doing research on my own because it's funny, right? Women, everyday women, I would say, like us, you don't really hear about it,
Not
but
as
you hear about
much.
it now because of the celebrities and they've made it more, norm and that they've talked about it. But still, that's a celebrity. A celebrity is almost like, oh, they have access to everything. Everything comes easy to them. That's like the vision that's like painted out there, which at the end of the day, they're normal human beings like we are, but they have these fabulous jobs that,
Yes.
everybody knows, and these careers that everybody knows who they are and what they do. But still,
Right.
I feel as if hearing it from a day-to-day person just kind of put a stamp of approval on it.
Yes. 100%. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about the first time you got pregnant and how that sort of led to where you are today.
The first time that I got pregnant was I was excited, right? I wasn't married at the time. I was with my now husband, and we were in our late 30s. So it was one of those times that it's like, if it happens, it happens. We're both, settled. He has his career, I have mine. So if it happens, great. It is what it is. This is the person that I know I'm going to be with. This is the person that I'm going to start a family with. Because I knew after my first divorce and being with my husband now, is that this is the man that I could see myself having kids with.
Love that.
And so I had a miscarriage. I was like maybe like 9 weeks, 10 weeks pregnant, and I had a miscarriage.
So
I didn't think
sorry.
much of it because, again, you read, you're like, okay, it's not meant to be. It's not time now. All right, we're not married. Maybe, once we get married, things will be different. Because I always believed in a family unit. Um, And then I got pregnant again and I miscarried
Oh, I'm
after like
sorry.
like 6 months after that. So then we started to just kind of be like, okay, this isn't working, whatever. If it happens again, then I'll go to the doctor. So it didn't happen again until after we got married. And then it was after we got married when I really became more serious about, okay, let's figure out what's happening. Let's see why why I'm not able to carry, and let's, discuss our options in terms of starting a family. So I go to my OBGYN that had been my OBGYN for many years, like 20 years. She had been my OBGYN. And she's the first one that mentioned IVF to me. And at first I was like, no, that's impossible. Like in my head, I'm like, everybody in my family has kids and they never had issues. Like, no, we are like baby making machines, at least my side of the family. Like that, I mean, honestly, like
Right.
my arrogance and my uneducated part of my mind on that topic, or even my own health. Let's even discuss that, our own health. It was just like, no, it's no, no. So then, because I never really heard about IVF, I mean, I've heard, but not anything that was like serious. So then I got pregnant, miscarried again. That's when I started getting serious. I went back to her. I was like, okay, doctor, let's figure this out. What do I have to do? Okay, you go see Dr. Kaplan at the IVF clinic. Okay, well, then I've heard of Dr. Kaplan now at this point because he's delivered over 10,000 babies or plus. I don't know. He's retired now, but then then I was like, okay. And then just so happened my friend, his wife was Dr. Kaplan's like right-hand nurse. So it was like divine timing at the time. So I reached out to her, I talked to her, it made it more comfortable. So I knew this was the path that I was going through because everything is starting to fall into line. Like how is it possible that Dr. Kaplan's right-hand nurse is a friend of mine's wife that I didn't even really know this? And so we started talking. She walked me through the process and I started IVF treatments. And I literally went back to back to back.
Wow.
My doctor at the time will only allow 4 treatments per year. That's what I did. But in
Wow.
between those 4 treatments, I was getting pregnant and then I was miscarrying. And then I was,
Mm.
and then I was trying to get embryos. And it just never got to the point because I was just miscarrying. It never got to the point where I actually took my embryo because I didn't have any. I didn't have any healthy embryos until like my 3rd round where I finally had healthy embryos. And at that point, I'm like, okay, let me keep trying because I know just because you have embryos, like 3 embryos, does not mean that this is going to be. So I was like, it's almost like a savings account, right? You just want to try and
Right.
you want to just keep harvesting. Cause at this point I'm 40, 41, some, I'm 40, 41, something like that. I can't even remember. I don't even know. I'm 40. Yeah, 40. I was in my early 40s.
It all mixes together. I
Doesn't
hear you,
matter
Archie.
anymore. I'm like closer to 50 than I am 40 now, like thinking about that. So it's
I hear you. It was all happening so fast. I think it's really hard when you're getting this news from the doctor saying, all right, well, this is we got to do this and that, and you're still processing because like, what do you mean I need to do IVF? Like, I'm not supposed to be this way. My no one in my family is like this. You can't really talk to your family about it because it's not, they don't really know about it. You had your one friend, but still culturally it's something that personally, I felt like if I talked about it with my family, they'd see it as such a negative and would see me as sort of like, you have issues. There's something wrong with you. And trying to process all that while you're doing what the doctor says, while you're doing the IVF round, it's this headspace it's really challenging. You could either fall into I'm not supposed to be doing this, but this doctor's telling me to do this. And it's just the mind space that you're in at that time. It is not easy.
And, not only that, Leslie, too, as, women in our 40s, and yes, I know it's possible that you could still get pregnant and have healthy pregnancy. I understand all of that. I completely understand all of that. But your chances are very slim. So now I'm racing,
Yes.
trying to beat the clock because I'm like, listen, every year, every round that goes by, your
Those
your
eggs.
chances are getting slimmer and slimmer.
That's
So that
right.
was my thought process when I was going through IVF, trying to get as many healthy embryos as possible, because that's not a guarantee.
That's
Let's
right.
be very clear. That is not a guarantee, but it's at least a backup.
That's right.
At least something that gives you a peace of mind. So yeah, basically I went through all of that and then it came to a point where I was like, you know what? My daughter was born 7, she's 3. I was 44 years old when my daughter was born. So I was like, what are going to be? See, I'm very like, once I get into the zone of anything, I'm like, okay, what can I do to increase my chances of anything that there is that I'm going after? Whether it's
Yes.
trying to lose weight, whether it's trying to get on a healthier scale, whatever it is in my life, this is how I operate. Some people can't, but this is what I do. I compartmentalize. What are my chances? What are my options? What do I have? What's in front of me? Right? Okay,
Right.
surrogacy. And at that point, when he told me that, that's when I had reached out to my friend that I knew had went through that. I was like, it was like a smack in the face because I'm like, okay, surrogacy or 9 months in bed. First of all, if anyone that knows me personally knows I don't sit down. I'm like constantly on the go. I can't sit down. I'm like constantly doing things. 9 months in bed. When I heard that, like bed rest, I was like, no, no, sir. No, thank you. I know you are the best. And he said to me, if I can't, he goes, this is your option. You're either 9 months in bed or you do surrogacy. Or if I can't get you pregnant if I can't have you get up, if I can't get you to what you need, which is having a baby, get you what you want, then you have to go to Colorado to see the specialist. So everybody knows that's in the IVF world that has gone. Most women know, I should say, that have done the IVF world. They know when you hear Colorado, now you're going to someone that is, if you can't get pregnant with that doctor in Colorado, your chances are like very minimal. So I was like,
Right.
okay, so let's start exploring this. So our first surrogate, they gave me a list of agencies and then I did it. And our first surrogate, she got pregnant with the first embryo
Wow.
and it was our only male. And because I was like, let me try this. And 6 months into the pregnancy, she miscarried.
So sorry.
So that was a really devastating loss.
Wow.
That was a really devastating loss. It was during COVID. Um, couldn't be with her because she was in Iowa. Couldn't be with her. Couldn't do anything because we were on lockdown. The whole world was like shut down. And it was one of the most devastating, I should say, out of every single thing that I have been through in my life. I will say that April 17th, I will never forget. Now it's a little bit more easier because my daughter, and as you know, you have a toddler that never stops. But sometimes when I'm alone, like this past April, it kind of hit me because I'm like, oh my God, it's been 5 years.
So
And you think
sorry.
about that. Out of all the miscarriages that I had, out of all of everything, that was, I think, one of the worst because now you're burying an actual baby. Right?
Wow. And that
So
was 1 month into COVID. I mean, COVID started March 13th, and this is April 17th, so I can't imagine how you were feeling so isolated, and this is the kind of news you don't exactly, pick up the phone and say, "Hey, guess what?" This is something you like to have face to face with your friends, and I'm not sure how many people you even told you were going into surrogacy, but these people are like, okay, great, it's a sure shot. She's got a surrogate. She's going to be a mom. Like it's like 100% go, but no, it's a rocky road nonetheless. Even if you hire a surrogate, there's no guarantees.
no, there's not. And it was very devastating. It was a really devastating time. It was just really just it was a really bad time. And, I remember my aunts, because I'm very close to two of my aunts. They live in Chicago. My mom lives in Arkansas. My mom and dad and brothers live in Arkansas, but my aunts live in Chicago. And I remember they're like, "F this. We're coming. I don't care." And I
Yay.
didn't care at that point, I didn't care because I just needed my family. And yes, it was just my husband and I, but I needed my family just to come and be with me because it was just like everything that was just going, and you're like, "What? Huh?" And then at the point you feel guilty. I feel guilty for the
Yes.
surrogate. I'm feeling like crap because of all this that was just happening. So it was just a very trying time. But I will say, going into our second journey with our surrogate, even a different agency, and I want if anyone that gets this part of this is really important. Who you choose as an agency is just as important as who you choose as a surrogate. And I say that because I experienced the bad side of that agency. And people are like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, just I it's very hard to really explain. It's just,
Yes.
and I get it. Surrogate agencies are in there because they need to, they're in there to operate. It's like a machine. But this agency, and I've shared this with you, I've shared the agency with you,
Yes.
they're like a machine. And when you talk to them, you feel like they care. They care. They truly care. And I remember it was just such a seamless journey. Like, it was such a seamless journey with this agency and with my surrogate. They matched me with somebody exactly of who I imagined myself, of who I would want carrying my child.
Oh, what a blessing.
She is such a blessing. She is amazing. She did everything by the books. I mean, not to mention that she's, funny as could be, but she's just a wonderful person. And not that my first surrogate wasn't, I'm not blaming her for anything,
Right?
at the time that everything was happening and that, but it's just, there's a contrast difference between agencies. And I just truly
Yes.
do say that choose wisely the agency as you would choose wisely your surrogate, because the agency is going to matter because they're really going to bring you the best of the best.
That's right.
And they're gonna
Vet,
do
vet,
the best
vet.
of the best. So when you go in that hospital and you're having that baby, you're not thinking about anything else. Literally, all the paperwork was done for me. All I had to do was sign. Someone was in the baby, everything was done so seamlessly. People are like, "Were you sure?" No, had nothing to, I mean, obviously, yes, going in and making sure our surrogate was gonna deliver healthy and her herself be healthy, because at this point you want that baby, but you have to understand when you're dealing with when you're working with a surrogate, she has a family of her own too. So
Yes.
you have to put that aside and be like, "I need this woman to be as healthy as possible and to get this, to have this baby and to be healthy, and her health is the priority." That's the priority,
Right.
because that's it. Her health is priority. So if she's healthy, everything else will be good. So she did the first transfer, it didn't work. And I truly believe the reason why she did the first transfer and it didn't work was because she did her COVID shot prior to that. And then studies came out that, with the shot and vaccination
Oh,
and all of that. But eventually we did a second transfer because I was like, two, that's it. I'm not going to, that's it. So the second transfer did work. And the first time, this is why I believe in divine timing. The first time we met our surrogate, we were in Miami because it was through Zoom like this. They introduced us to her. We were in Miami and we weren't even thinking about moving here. The next time she told me she was pregnant, we were in Miami. And at that point, we were just thinking about doing a second home here and not fully relocating. So I knew that the universe was trying to tell me something. And now
wow.
and my daughter's being raised in Miami.
That is so full circle.
It is. It's a full circle moment. It's wild. So I truly do believe in faith. I truly do believe in signs, and just, listening to what your heart and mind and the universe tells you.
Absolutely. It sounds like you said your aunts came out during that first loss. They wanted to be around you. Bless them for going to you at that time. Did you? How do they feel about surrogacy? Was it the first time they had heard of this, and what kind of questions were they asking you?
So obviously, my family, being Middle Eastern, my Armenian and Palestinian sides, they didn't understand. Everybody had kids except my Aunt Josie. She didn't want any kids, but everybody had kids. Nobody had issues. Yes, there was, after a while, oh, I had a miscarriage. Then people would start talking about it, but they they really didn't understand it. So I had to explain it to them, like basically in Arabic, I explained it to them as I said, there's a cake. Let's start as simple as possible. It's a cake and we put all the ingredients in it. And they're my ingredients and my husband's ingredients. And then we just need an oven for it to bake in. And that's exactly how the surrogacy works. And they're like, oh, so there's nothing from the surrogate that the baby's gonna get? I'm like, no, because it's our DNA. It's
That's a
our
negative.
baby. Now she will get the nutrients, so whatever the surrogate eats, the baby's going to get. But other than that, there's no blood relation, there's none of that. So I think they didn't believe it until Valentina came out because she was like this little tiny dark fur ball that looked identical to my husband. And at first I was like, what is that? I wasn't the mom that was like, oh my God, what a cute baby. I was like, oh my God, she's so little and hairy. She's like a little fur ball. And then my surrogate's blonde hair and blue eyes. Blonde hair, blue eyes. So it was so funny just to see this little baby that looks identical to her dad, like and now, I mean, obviously, but now when I look at Valentina, now when people see her, they're like, oh my God, like our family, she looks literally just like you and your husband. I'm like, yes, she's our baby. She's
Oh.
our baby. She's a 50-50 mixture. She was mixed up in a little petri dish in a science lab. Like, what else do you want me to tell you? This is how it works, okay? This is exactly how it is. It's science. But yeah,
Yeah.
they were supportive. They were very supportive. Yeah, you would hear some of the family members, you always have some of those family members that make comments or say things, but those are I just don't I'm like, whatever.
Yeah. In the time you mentioned you had a few miscarriages and then that first loss from the surrogate.
Everybody was just devastated because they were all like wanting to be on my side and the people that I had shared it with, right? Because at the point I hadn't really shared that we were pregnant, out like coming out making announcements. It was just within the family that I had talked about, like my mom, my dad, and my closest friends, that we had said that we were pregnant. And because I was waiting to say we're pregnant as, we got closer and as you do the bigger test, right? You want to just make sure everything is good and that. So I'm glad I didn't say that because at the end of the day, I wanted to mourn by myself. I didn't want oh, I'm so sorry, or, it's like I wanted to be able to understand my own feelings and emotions and my husband and I, and we needed to figure out our own feelings and emotions with all of this rather than having just the outside voices. So yeah, of course, my family, a few of my friends, they they understood and they were nice, but it's just like for me, I'm like I needed to understand. I didn't want, and I'm so glad that I didn't announce our first pregnancy. And I also waited with our daughter. I think I waited for a really long time before I even announced it to, the outside, to people, through social and things like that before I actually said, "Hey, we're pregnant."
My heart is breaking for her loss and how that affected her. She shared so openly her sorrow, and it definitely brings me to a place that I know well, having gone through a stillborn journey of my own. For more on her story, surrogacy, and the importance of mental health, tune in to our next episode, number 14. That wraps us up for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Ellen and Melissa at Pretty Easy Podcast, for your support in creating this episode. Please check out more of these and similar stories on Instagram and TikTok at mothersinarms.pod. Lastly, if you can please take a few seconds to like and rate this episode on whatever platform you're listening on right now. It really goes a long way to getting the word out on this little podcast. Thank you. Have a blessed day.